Yay! You made it to another episode of the Weekend Hustle podcast. My name is Shelby and I'll be your host as we dive into barrel racers, athletes, and just people of the world to share, motivate, and inspire us all to be the best that we can be. Together, we can hustle. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekend Hustle podcast. Today is an exciting day for us as Josh Andrews is with us to talk all about the things, his life and his businesses and his horses, which are kind of all my favorite things. So I'm excited to dive in with Josh. So to get started, first, I just want to say thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy. Like one thing I have to say, like I loved your style because I literally was like, oh yeah, here's the link. The next day you're like booking it right now. And I was like, that's my type. It's like, let's get it done. Like no waiting a month or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the ADD, if I don't do things now, I will probably never do them. And if you've ever tried
exactly.
to contact me on the phone, you'll probably understand that. So
Yes.
yeah.
I'm the same way. So I appreciate that. I'm like, yes, I love this. Let's go and dive right in.
Get
So
it,
to
get
get,
over it.
yeah, to dive in, actually, tell us a little bit about, because I really like I see you online. I've seen your businesses grow and you going from kind of trainering, brokering horses to your saddle company, which is just incredible. But tell us a little bit about what brought you there. What was your upbringing with horses and what got you into the barrel racing world?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know this, but I grew up team roping. I didn't run barrels until like I was out of high school. So I made the high school finals. My family's very competitive team ropers. So we did that all through my childhood. My mom has only rode a horse once in her life. The largest animal she ever had when my dad and her met was a teacup poodle. So yeah, my dad has always done this. They started more of just like horse show kind of deal back before me and my brother were born. My dad did. And then my brother's actually a very competitive team roper. And my nephew, who's now 14, roping is what our lives have been revolved around. And then I always liked barrel racing. Just the stigma of it kind of kept me from doing it. And then once I got out of high school, or kind of between the ages of 16 and 18, I started buying a few cheaper horses and doing that deal. And then when I graduated, um, that's what I've been doing ever since. So it's been a whirlwind, and there's a lot of lessons I've learned that I wish, the saying, I wish I would have known then what I know now. So yeah, that's kind of how I got brought up in it. Um, I think the thing that I've always been intrigued with sales. I'll never forget a funny story. I want to say I was 15 or 16. We were taking my brother to college. He got a rodeo scholarship in Oklahoma, and I've been wanting to move. We live really close to Little Rock, which is our capital, and there wasn't just a whole lot of horse things there. So I begged my mom and dad. I was like, "Can we please move? I wanted to move to where we're at now." And they're like, "We'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put a for sale sign in the yard this weekend while we're gone taking your brother to college. And if someone were to buy it, we'll move." It's the craziest God thing. We got like 3 hours from there, and this lady called, and she said, "Hey, I'm very interested." My mom and dad were like, haha. She asked if she could view the property. So we told her where we had a key. She viewed the property while we were not there. And Monday she paid them, and we had 2 weeks to move. And it gives me chill bumps now because um, it changed my life. And it was just super cool that that's where it kind of started. So I've always loved um, the trading aspect, the selling aspect, and obviously with how everything's grown, it's gotten so much bigger. So yeah, that's kind of how little crash course in there in my childhood and all that. So yeah, that's how we got here today.
That's amazing. You must have a lot of persuasion with your parents to be like, I'll put a for sale sign for you.
Yeah, I
That's
don't think
awesome.
they really never thought it would happen, especially my mom, because growing up in the city, we were only like 20 minutes from Little Rock then, which is where we live out now is still a big town. We can be to the interstate in 5 minutes. But I don't think they ever thought that that would happen. And looking back now, they wish we would have done it years prior to that. But yeah, it was just a God thing, and that's how everything works out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's kind of cool that it's such a pivotal moment, right? That really was transitional for your life. And like you said, you never were the same. So that's really awesome. And
Yeah,
kind of
it's
does
great.
give you chills, just like those those huge moments in your life, right? That really do alter everything and for your future. So you did mention a little bit about just in high school, flipping a little bit of horses. What was that like? Like, were you doing it just for like recreational horses for
Yeah.
people, barrel horses? Like, what was that?
So there's not a lot of things in life that the older I get, the more I remember things, but I'll never forget, when you're going into like your ninth and 10th grade year, everyone's like, what are you going to do when you graduate? What are you going to do? And my dad always encouraged me to do whatever, that made me happy. And my mom always would say, you need a plan to fall back on. So I started trading around a few horses, and these were cheap horses back in the day. The horse market has skyrocketed, and it's a blessing for us all. But these were just cheaper horses. I always could really, really ride, but I never could afford to like buy that better horse. So that's what I did. There used to be a horse sale in Shawnee, Oklahoma, um, primarily like cow horses and stuff, and that was really big when the I hate to use the word rejects, but the horses that didn't make it in the reining of the cow horse deal, a lot of the top trainers would take them there, and I would buy those things because they were broke. I could start them on the barrels, and within 30 to 60 days, they ran the barrels. And I had met someone that's won the world. She's really huge in the industry, and we kind of made a deal. It was very private. I would get the horses going and train them, and then that's when she was selling a lot of horses. So that's the avenue I took, and it really did take off. I started buying better horses with the profits I made. And I did go to college a little bit, but looking back now, I always kind of remind my mom that I didn't need a backup plan. So I do encourage everyone to go to school, get an education, but if school's not for everyone. So you can still make a living doing what you love as long as you are passionate about it. So that's kind of how the horse selling side of it got started.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure back then, like now there's so much resources online to sell horses, where back then it was different. So I like being able to improvise and have a good deal with someone who is maybe had the connections and, you were doing the training, sending it to her to
Yeah.
sell. So it is about collaborating and building those businesses. So what has that been like as well with kind of going from there to now, like with the connections that you've made along the way and how impactful those have been for your growth?
Yeah, so I think that's something that's really important to note for a lot of people out there listening that I would encourage everyone to understand is that we all make mistakes. I had one of the largest horse sellers in the world. He would buy, horses that were going to go to slaughter or horses that were going to win the NRHA Derby. And he told me, he said, you'll always have about one horse a year that you think, that deal didn't go like how I wanted it to. So when he gave me that piece of advice when I was 18, I tried really hard from there on to keep that in mind. More or less that, not everyone's going to be happy. And the reason I've kind of backed off and changed the course of my business of selling horses is people think this is a Walmart. People think this is Target. And unfortunately, it's not. I probably say a lot more on my social medias than a lot of people do because a lot of people are worried about being canceled. And for me, it's the reality of what this business is like. When someone purchases a horse, their horseshoe is different. The feed's different. Their riding schedule is different. So just because someone purchased a horse and they didn't have instant success, the nagging kind of that kind of got old, and you really are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. You really have to not only get a tough skin, but
You're there.
let's try that again.
Okay.
You have to understand that when you lay your head down at night, you've done the best you can do. And along the way, you learn. But I really struggled for years because I was always worried about, is that person 100% happy? And the older I've gotten, I have to understand those crucial things, that they have a different fare, they have a different vet, and most of all, their riding schedule is so much different. Not trying to go off course here, but when I was 18, I had a lovely, lovely friend. Her name's Kendall Lowen. She trains barrel horses in Purcell, Oklahoma, and she took me in when I was 18. So, basically an internship. And I think people are very confused of how much a real trainer rides. They see these top horses in every event and they think, oh, I bet they live in a padded stall and they just get rode once or twice a week because Fluffy's amazing. That was about the time that JL Dash to Heaven, I'm sure a lot of people know him, was a 3-4-year-old. And watching Jolene when she had that horse, it made me realize that an athlete is an athlete. And if they're a great horse, they're a great horse. But Michael Jordan trained every day, twice a day. So I did learn in that time that these horses are rode quite a bit and rode quite a bit in the right way. So what I did learn is, especially like I said, when I was selling these horses, is that not everyone has your riding style and not everyone has your riding schedule. So riding more often than not can eliminate a lot of issues in the pattern with whatever sport you do. So the horse sales, it was great. I sold lots of horses, made lots of good connections. And that's what led me into finding the horse that I'd made the American on 4 times, the American semifinals, the Dash for Perks Baby. So I just constantly, try to trade up to where I could afford a better horse.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Good grit and good, okay, this is the goal. Have to keep buying, selling, and flipping your way forward. So yeah. I do love that. I think it's cool when people can come from that type of background, because I personally, I didn't come from horse background. So when you said about going to auctions to buy a reining reject, that was literally my first barrel horse. And that was yeah. And it was great.
A lot of people's, and I think that's great because what those horses also taught me, and that's something that I think a lot of younger people that want to make it in this industry, they're so blinded about, is you don't just get successful. What that horse taught you and what those taught me is what a broke horse is. Mm-hmm. You, after riding that one, probably thought about all the horses you rode in the past and you're like, dang, those things weren't very broke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it makes you want to be a better horseman, and it makes you want to figure out, how do those horses ride like that? What are those people doing to get them to do this and do that?
Mm-hmm. I think that's the difference between someone that is also just wanting to be self-taught and maybe didn't have the resources always in front of them. Cause I'm a first generation barrel racer. So yeah, it is asking those questions, how do I get them to do that? And then figuring out and asking people to give you the answers instead of you just getting on a horse that does it without really having that awareness as well, I think is super key.
For sure. And I've always encouraged people that when they buy horses, because not a lot of times, but majority of the time, their parents buying for a kid. And I always tell them to buy a little bit more than you think your kid's ready for, because for me, I look at when they buy a horse, I look at their money as an investment, especially for the kid, because hopefully that kid is going to get better in 6 months, a year, and they're going to need to step up to a different horse or a better horse. So I always try to keep that buyer's money in mind, for the fact that I can probably sell this horse for you, or we can find it another kid. But buy something just a little bit more than you think you need. And I've had a lot of people that did trust me in that process, and they had a lot of success, and they didn't feel like that they lost a lot of money, because they seen that their investment was coming back, whether it be 6 months or a year. So you learn something from every day of life.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. And I think that applies a lot with even other goals that you have. It's you kind of grow into that goal. So it's you're growing into that horse, even though it might not be where you are today, but in, like you said, in 6 months, you're planning on that really being where you want to get to. So it's okay, now I know where I'm working towards, and you're kind of going to grow into that horse better. And that's really true. So now that we're talking a little bit about horses, best practices with buying and selling, has there been anyone either as a buyer or a seller that are the best practices that you believe work?
Yes. And again, this is just, I'm just really raw and candid. It's not always the seller's fault. I know it's easy.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, I know, right? It's not all, and I'm not saying that from just because I sell horses. I'll tell you, I've bought a lot of horses in my life, and I recently went and bought one that was a winner. I've never really bought a horse that could win first, because my talent, I would hope, made up for it. So once the saddle business got busy, I went and bought a real winner, and I rode it for 2 weeks. called the guy I bought it from and said, hey, I'm going to send him right back to you. And he's like, why? Like, you do this for a living. I said, I can't show him to his best potential. And I know that. So instead of trying to fight this out for 2 months or 2 years, that doesn't benefit the horse. So I send the horse right back. The guy's winning on it, and I'm sure we'll find it a good home. But the best practices are know what you're getting into. And I say that more from a financial standpoint, because everyone wants to get on this bandwagon of so-and-so sold me a horse and they took my money, they did me wrong, yada, yada, yada. From a seller standpoint, what you have to keep in mind is that 80% of the people in this business, they don't own their inventory. So what I mean by that is you consign a horse to me, okay? Well, when the buyer buys it, you give me my 10 or 20%, you actually take the lump sum of the money and you go. We separate or go our separate ways. And a lot of times the people that are selling are hobbyists. So they have an 8 to 5 and they're selling this horse for a reason. It's not a business for them. So a month from now, when the buyer calls and says, hey, Fluffy, I've decided I don't like it. Well, guess what? As the seller, I don't have your money, okay? I can't give you a refund. And a lot of times I think that buyers forget that just as much as sellers forget that. I've ate a couple horses in my life, that the people weren't happy with, and I couldn't afford to buy them back, but I did. So that's when I transitioned to pretty much riding my own. A couple other things I would love to point out is a contract can be your best friend. I thought a handshake was your best friend for years because I'm in the South, like that's what people are supposed to be honest. And unfortunately, a contract is your best friend because things happen, horses fall apart. And I'm going to say that again. Horses just fall apart. There's nothing on the buyer or the seller or necessarily the horse that is to blame that for, but just like us, horses fall apart. And I think that people are very, very blind to the fact of what horses are selling for. Mm-hmm. Literally, since January, I know of 5 horses that we see on national television right now that cost between $700 and $1.2 million. These are not the thoroughbreds that we watch at Keeneland or the cow horse sale that we watch in Fort Worth. These are barrel horses that we see on that TV running at a rodeo on horrible ground. So when that person calls you that buys that $7,500 horse, those are the people you have issues with. So I would just tell someone that decided to go down this route or wanted to buy a horse, keep in mind your budget. And it's just like buying a used car that's not name brand versus buying a used car that is name brand and then a new car. You're always going to be better off to spend the max of your budget on the best product you can. I personally don't vet check anything. That's my risk. So I'm not encouraging or discouraging anyone to do that. But a lot of times I see people in the $10,000 to $15,000 range, that's their hardcore budget. And I understand it. Well, they'll go, well, we're going to vet check. Absolutely. Let's go to the vet. By the time we leave there, they've spent $3,000 on a vet check.
And it fails.
And it fails.
Quote.
Yeah. So they could have had an $18,000 budget. And a lot of times, and this is why I probably post a lot of stuff that's a little risky that could possibly get me canceled in this cancel culture, is not everything is sound. The horse I made the American on the semifinals on 4 times, the Sunday before my second qualification, he broke his hock. It got better a year later and I qualified on him again, yada, yada, yada. But that horse's issue was soft tissue all along. People go, well, he came back from a broken hock. Yeah, and he probably shouldn't have, because at that time, I couldn't afford surgery. So a bone that breaks can get better. People are so blinded by soft tissue. So when they go and they want to do 47 x-rays on a horse, I just get really confused. And when I'm selling one, the last thing the buyer wants to hear is the seller say, well, I wouldn't x-ray it. I would do A, B, C, and D, because they always think that you're deflecting off of an issue. And with this day and time, social media and everything, no one's really going to do you wrong because they really can't. So if it's a reputable seller and they say, hey, listen, this horse runs on A, B, C, and D, and their x-rays are like this, ask the hardcore questions before you waste their time, your time, and you waste your money. I've gotten to the point now when someone, if you were to call about a horse and I tell you about it, you show interest, I would ask, is a vet check more important to you than how the horse fits you? And if they say yes, I always encourage that vet check prior to them booking a plane ticket, because they're wasting their time, my time, and what's most important is they're wasting a ride on that horse. And I feel like a horse is like a deck of cards. You only have so many cards until it's over with. And if a vet check's important, by all means do that. But tell that seller, hey, these are my non-negotiables. We do it when we buy, if you were to call and buy a piece of real estate, you would tell the real estate agent, these are my do's and these are my don'ts. And in the horse business, I wish we were more realistic about that and more honest about that. And I feel like that a lot of horses, because I really don't care about the humans in that situation, I feel like a lot of the horses would end up in happier homes for a longer amount of time, and those horses would have a better career all around.
Just being transparent as well, like being upfront instead of being like a little kind of, it's almost sketchy when you are a little beating around the bush with stuff like that. And then it's like, well, I'll take the horse. And then there's issues that weren't kind of acknowledged or seen or even expected. Because like I sell some horses and I totally understand everything you're saying. Like, I think most people, even if they're just a hobbyist, would you consider doing a pre-purchase before even like selling the horse yourself? Or is it always like that the seller is going to do a pre-purchase individually as they come?
So you're asking the best questions, and I'm so excited that we are doing this.
Me too.
So a lot of times this is my process, and this is not everyone's process, because honestly, I couldn't afford to do this years ago. So my program has transitioned around to, I will have a horse and I'll compete on it. It'll get to winning. It'll get a following from social media, and that horse will find a perfect home. So in that time, my shoer has got to fix its feet, because honestly, 90% of the time it's screwed up feet. And I also will have that horse have looked at it by vet. So I always, because here's the deal, I want those horses to win with me, not for greedy purposes, because I want that horse to be as good as it can be. So for that horse to be competitive and that horse to be a rock star, it has to feel good, which starts at the feet and then the vet. When I first started doing this when I was younger, I couldn't afford to go to the vet. I'll be real honest with you. And I think that vet knowledge has gotten better, so all I had was my farrier, and it would take me about 2 shoe-ins, but that's when I realized that what works for my program is my farrier shoes the horse like the foot is. Now, we have done some special shoeing, I don't question my farrier, and I don't stick x-rays down my farrier's throat. I hate it when, now my vet and farrier work well together, and my vet will suggest things, but a lot of barrel racers they take their phone and they go, look, this is what my vet wants you to do. We're going to do this. This is the x-rays. Well, that rider thinks that you can just change that foot's angle like instantly. Well, your farrier most of the time is going to argue with you, and you're going to think that it's the farrier going against the vet, but the farrier really, you can't take a foot here and here in one day, so that's kind of my process. I ride a lot, and I don't think people understand how much riding goes into winning. And it's like a kid. I feel like kids these days are not very respectful. I feel like kids these days are entitled, and I feel like kids these days are rude. Horses can get there just as quickly, I love horses. They've changed my life. They teach me something every day. But I am really big on how a horse leads behind me. And I can usually tell you if someone comes for help when I watch them, they park out front and lead their horse to the arena, can usually tell you the issues from there. And that's where my passion for education comes from. Now that I can afford to do these things, I want people to understand. And some people don't want to understand that because they're really hooked on natural horsemanship, which is great. There's a place for it. But if you want to win first, whether that be at the competition or first in your mind, your horse has got to start by respecting you and being sound. So to finish up on what you asked, I'm sorry I get so long-winded.
Don't be sorry.
When I get a horse in, my number one thing is to ride them for a couple of days and then go to the vet. Usually I can tell by riding them what the issues may be. I don't really question my vet. I feel like I use the best vet in the country. So I just tell him, hey, this is what this horse is doing. You do you. And I let my farrier and my vet do their job. And then if we have an issue on down the road, we obviously address it. I do quite a bit of vet work, I would say. I don't wait till they get sore. I don't run to the vet every week because people need to also keep in mind, and I learned this from I did own a vet clinic and a rehab up until a year ago. Be honest with your vet. If you have took that horse to a different vet a month ago because you're having an issue and you had that horse's hocks injected, please tell the vet that you're chasing next that you did that. Because a lot of times they'll inject those horses again. That's horrible for the horse, and that just goes back on us circling back to, I think riding can eliminate a lot of issues because a lot of times with all the technology we have and all the resources, people want to run and get a different answer from someone else, So yeah, that's my take on that.
I think that also is a sense of kind of like the quick fix. It's like, oh, the vet is like the pill to take. It's like, oh, if I just take this pill, I'll like resolve all my issues and I don't have to worry about riding so much to actually fix the things and to start getting towards my goal. So it's like, I think that totally is like super spot on. You just mentioned though before that I want to go back on of respect, like you're getting people come in for lessons and you want respect, but they also, like they might be sore. Do you think that there is a correlation with the behavior and the physicalness? And have you seen changes when you get horses come in, how their behavior changes once you actually address their physical self?
Yeah. So what I'm fixing to say should be clickbait, should go viral,
Perfect.
should be plastered everywhere.
Okay.
Sore horse, and it gives me chills before I say it. A sore horse, 98% of the time, comes from not being rode correctly. Now, again, I keep saying this, I'm beating a dead horse. People don't understand that, but I have a horse, I'm looking at him out the window now. He's here on consignment. The lady brought him. He's a big horse. She paid quite a bit of money for him out of the north. He won with them. She got him here. He didn't win with her. I picked him up at the jackpot. And this horse wasn't strong over his back. His loin, his hip, he wasn't really strong. And again, I owned a rehab, so I can tell you all the fancy things you can do to fix this. But after 2 weeks of riding him, and she had to do a lot of vet work prior to me getting him, because he kept on being sore. She said he would lunge and rear in the alleyway. He'd get on the backside of the third and he would want to exit stage left. So 2 weeks later, sent her a video of him walking flat in the alleyway. He did try me a little bit at the third, but nowhere near like he did her. And she was like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? And I was like, well, I rode him. She's like, yeah, but like, what do you mean? That horse got stronger over his back and he went from being hollowed out to then riding around correctly, and he got stronger. When you lay more muscle over that horse's back and you lay just more mass, you have to know that will eliminate a lot of your soreness. Kissing spine is a big thing in the States. And again, I've owned a rehab to where I rehabbed a lot of horses after kissing spine surgery. I did surgery one time, and I'm not going to say I wouldn't do it again, but I am going to say that I feel like a lot of the kissing spine saga or whatever could be eliminated by fitness. And a vet can tell you till you're blue in the face that your horse is not fit, but they get tired of telling you that, you know? So I think that 98% of soreness comes from fitness. And you you can't just get on your horse and say, well, I trotted him 15 minutes one way and 15 minutes the other and think that you accomplished something. Because when that horse's back is like this, hollowed out, you're doing nothing. And you're doing nothing. When that horse is rounded up and they can carry themselves, then you're doing something. I would take a horse, if you gave me two horses and two riders, and one rider did nothing but walk, front, and lope, but they kept that horse driving up under themselves and kind of bridled up in a way to where their back could be stronger. And you gave me another rider that long trotted their horse for a mile and a half a day, and you wanted me to go to a race, a competition, whatever, I would always pick the horse that had less fitness corrector versus I would the horse that you would think could run the Kentucky Derby, because one was done correct. And you'll see that in your vet bills. You'll see that in your performance. You'll see it everywhere. Yeah, things happen and horses get crippled or sore. I understand that. But it's just like a dog, a puppy. We would get puppies. If you were at 6 weeks old, make them be good in the house instead of waiting till they're 6 months. Your dog will be housebroken about 2.5 weeks. You know, you've got to. It's the little things that you reprimand that you'll see the biggest result in. So yeah, to answer your question, I feel like that a lot of vet bills could be eliminated. And I feel like that people would not only eliminate a lot of vet bills, I feel like their feed bill would come down. The horse that I'm referring to, the bigger horse, he has not ate any grain since he's been here. He's standing in front of a 3x3x8 bale of alfalfa, and he looks like $1 million. But those calories that he's taking in are being used and placed correctly over his back. So a fitter horse, in my opinion, is a sounder horse.
And I think it is simplifying some things as well. Like it actually is a simple answer potentially than people think. They think they need like every other supplement and all the vets and rehab stuff. But it's like you just said, if you ride correctly and get that fitness. One thing I want to touch or like kind of drift over into is also saddle fitting that I'm sure for you are passionate about. So tell us a bit of that journey of realizing the importance of saddles and taking as far as building your own line.
Yeah, so I'm going to circle back on the vet thing one more time before we jump to that. 4 years ago, I opened up the state's first rehab, and we had a vet clinic inside. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm pretty good at this barrel horse deal. Pretty good. I can win, a decent amount. I have a vet on my side that can get me whatever medication I want. I'm going to win. And let me just tell everyone out there, there's no bottle, there's no syringe that is going to eliminate, honestly, a lot of your issues. I'm huge on ulcer medication, pharmaceutical ulcer medication. But if you think that there is a vet or a needle that's going to give you the answer, I owned a rehab and vet clinic and was no more successful than I am now. So I learned real quickly that there's no needle or bottle that can fix your issues that you're having. So yeah, there's nothing out there that can fix your issues through a vet or a bottle.
It's a combination of everything, right? And that's where we have to get real of like, how are we showing up? How are our horses showing up? How are our vets? How are our farriers? It's like the full picture. And it really isn't just like improving one aspect, hoping everything else just is going to do it. It's like you really have to take the time and put your energy and money and effort into those areas. I actually do want to talk a little bit about your vet clinic. How did that come about of you starting a rehab facility?
So the state always needed it. I started using Josh Harvey with Outlaw Equine years ago, and I loved his rehab. So Dr. Mike Pallone, that's here in Arkansas, I knew that he had the passion. I knew he had the finances, but I knew that he didn't have the person to kind of take it. So there was a facility here in Central Arkansas that come available. It was an indoor arena. And I called Mike and I said, hey, I have this idea. And I was, a broke mid 20-year-old, and he took a chance on me. And down one side, there's a 24-hour small animal clinic. Then you have the arena. And then on the other side, we had a water treadmill, a cold saltwater spa, a solarium, and an equicizer. And we hosted events there. That was a good chapter of my life. I knew it wasn't a forever for me. It was me knowing that, proven to myself that I could start an actual, what a lot of people call a real business. You know, in the horse industry, you always have someone say, well, so-and-so has a real job, or do you have a real job? So for me, it was more for me mentally that, hey, you're going to respect me and you're going to put respect on my name because I opened up $1 million facility that is thriving. So it was just kind of a time in my life. I learned so much from the rehab aspect of it. The rehab is still going. They're doing great. The vet clinic's doing great. Josh Harvey actually come on board with me, and he makes a stop there every 6 weeks to do performance lameness and stuff. And Dr. Pallone's there a lot as well. And he has 2 other clinics. So it was a really kind of downtime in my life. My horse had broke his leg midway through the American deal. So I knew that I had to have a rehab because I couldn't afford to do anything for him. So we rehabbed him there in the cold saltwater spa and then stuck him on the treadmill. So more than anything, it was, I knew I had to do that to get back competitive on that certain horse. So it was a fantastic learning experience. I don't know that I would do it again. I'm really big on, for me personally, once I accomplish something, I want to move on to something a little bit better. So that's what kind of put me back into the horse deal full time, and then led me, oddly enough, into the saddle business, which I never wanted to be in the saddle business. Ever wanted to be in the saddle business.
Yeah. Like you said, you're like, well, maybe try something else. And I'm sure it just kind of came across. I'm curious though, you said you're in your mid 25s when you started the rehab center. Yeah. What kind of obstacles was that like? Because I think anyone that wants to take that leap of faith, like you said, the practitioner took a leap of faith of you, but what was that like for yourself, almost taking a leap of faith in yourself?
Oh my gosh. I was, looking back, we're always learning things. I was in a midlife crisis, I believe, honestly. I was in a relationship that I loved this person more than I loved myself. And I've never said this publicly, so, here it is. I did it more for them, hoping that it would give them their own identity. A lot of times when you do what I do and you try to have, a relationship outside of the horse deal, people are very intimidated. They think that they know you because you live your life on social media when they really don't. So the biggest struggle was, at that time I had $700 to my name, literally $700 to my name. And I had just talked a person, Dr. Plone, that I kind of knew into like opening up this $1 million business with me. I faked it till I made it, honestly. I had nothing. All I had to offer him was my drive and my ambition. And he's seen that. And he reminds me of that all the time. But it was such a struggle, opening up a business like that, because it's not like Walmart. It's not like Target. You don't have to take your horse to the rehab. You don't have to bring your horse there to the vet. It's a luxury for people to be able to do that. So I put a lot of faith in people supporting me. And I just knew that if I worked at it, that I would make it successful. And I did. A girl come in and bought me out, and that's now her passion. And they still have the same staff they did when I was there. But it was hard, but you always have to keep in mind, if you're passionate enough to start it, you have to stay passionate enough through the whole process to see it till the end. Because there's a lot of times, about after 3 or 4 months, when the new wore off for the public, I had to market it and do it. And I tell people all the time, the rehab was like a baby that never quit crying. Because if you were to send a horse there, but you work an 8 to 5, we had worked horses all day long. Well, that person wants to know how their horse was, and they don't go to work till 5. So from 5 to 10:30 at night, not only are you trying to update people on their horses that they're paying good money to leave there, you also have to try to live your own life, carry on whatever relationships you have out of that. Plus, I was still trying to be a competitive barrel racer then. And I was in the midst of trying to fulfill a relationship void that was probably already gone. And we've all been through emotional things like that. And the toll it takes on you usually don't see until you're outside of it. So I learned a lot from that business through that relationship that was ultimately failing. So it was all around a struggle, to say the least.
But a good struggle potentially that led you to the next chapter. So like you said, like in hindsight, you're like, maybe, it was like kind of supposed to happen that way. So moving on now, your new venture, I have like
Yeah,
so many questions, but like the
I'm
saddle
here for
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Especially you said earlier how you weren't even wanting to do the saddle thing. Where did
Yeah.
this idea come that you thought that you kind of had to fill this void in the saddle market?
So I didn't have that idea at all, honestly. Um, I still tell people to this day that I um, never wanted to be in the saddle business ever. I was drove into the saddle business through a horrible, horrible deal that a lot of people don't know that's happening in the industry. Um, I was drove into it. I had to make the choice on trying to think what I can say about this legally. I had to be able to afford to fight the battle that was brought at me,
Hmm.
and it was about saddles. So I decided to just find a factory in Brazil, and I had my ideas of a tree I wanted. And again, here we are. Someone will always take a chance on you if you have a good work ethic. And this person did. And now we're not even a year into it. And I own a factory there to where we make these saddles. And then I have another new venture in another country that we're making pads and boots and stuff. But once I got into the saddle deal, I realized that women don't understand how they're built. And a lot of my saddle success has been understanding that women usually have curves, women usually have hips. A lot of the customer base has already had a child, so they're just built different. So my saddle idea and tree design really targeted that. I want a rider to feel like that they're in the saddle, but they're not trapped, because a lot of my customers, they have a job, they have a family. And when they do get to ride on the weekend, the last thing they want to do is feel like that they're falling out of their saddle. So the thing that sets my tree apart versus a lot of other people is my number one thing is how it fits the rider. We can always adjust how it fits the horse. And the rider is my most important task and goal when someone calls about a saddle. So, yes, just kind of like a lot of things that have happened in my life, it's been the biggest blessing because they're everywhere. And it shocks me. I'll go to a barrel race or something and I'll see one of them and it takes me a second. I was here in the house Saturday, and Summer Coastal, she's like 15th in the world right now. She took a chance on me a couple months ago, and I sent her some saddles. Actually, um, overnighted her one to Cheyenne because she runs at Cheyenne tomorrow. And I seen my saddle run at the Calgary Stampede, and I just want to encourage people that that was 7 months ago that this horrible thing got brought to me, and I was having to fight it financially, mentally, and physically. That in just 7 months, you can accomplish whatever you want to. Now, a lot of times it takes more than 7 weeks or 7 months, but that was the big aha moment is when they called her name and I seen that saddle run across there with my pad line that I now have. And everything happens for a reason, I feel like that the what I thought was the worst time of my life, what would wreck me financially, that drove me into this saddle business is now the biggest blessing.
Mm-hmm.
So I never wanted to be in the saddle business. No, ma'am. Ever, ever, ever wanted to be in the saddle business.
Wow, that almost makes me emotional. Just the idea that it like came up to you, and it was almost like your version of fighting back. Like I don't know the story that happened, but it was like, watch me do this thing, and then now you're just killing it, and you're doing the thing. So it's like you're like such a cool way to actually fight back and to kind of show like, don't mess with me because I'm
Yeah,
coming.
I Yeah, I thought, and again, here we are again, going back to this relationship thing that I've never really said any of this publicly. I just feel like this is a good time in my life to be able to say this. The midst of the tragedy that pushed me in the saddle business was that relationship was finally ending. And I had two choices over the saddle situation. I could either lay down and give up pretty much everything I'd worked for 32 years,
Mm.
or I could fight it. And I wasn't prepared financially to fight it. I had a great team behind me. And only two people kind of knew what was going on other than my legal team. Um, and I just had no choice but to fight it. And again, I'm like you, it makes me emotional and I'm the one that has been through it. Is a lot of times in anything you do in life, your darkest moment is you think that there's no way out. And then if you'll just ride that storm, I promise the sun always shines. It really does. And the greatest moments of your life usually come after the moments that you think that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And we've all had those stories. Thankfully and luckily, I just have a platform like this to encourage people that it happens to us all. I don't come from money. I just come from hard work ethic and never give up. And as cliche as the never give up sounds, because we hear it every day, you really can't give up, especially when you're self-employed
Mm-hmm.
and you have people to provide for.
Yeah. And it is inspiring, just like you said, having the platform to share your story. It's like you're not teaching people, you're just simply sharing what you're going through, and people find that connection and they find their story within your story. So it is inspiring a lot of people. And even just putting yourself out there might be scary, but knowing that you're doing it to help people. And sometimes I really want to say this too, is like, yeah, never give up is often overheard. Like hear it all
Yeah.
the time, but sometimes your version of saying never give up is exactly what someone needs to hear. So like you might just say it in a way that really resonates with a person, that they're like, you're right. How you said never give up, I really understand what that means now. And it's just by putting yourself out there. So you have been really big on social media, which I love. You just sharing your personality and sharing all that. What was there a moment or any obstacle that you felt of like, I'm kind of scared to put myself out there, or has it been pretty easy to just
Oh no.
let it go?
Every day. The age I am, Facebook was the thing, and it took me a while to understand that Facebook was not the only source of social media. It wasn't, I haven't had TikTok, but I think about a year. A friend of mine, my best friend, she was like, she has kids that ride me. She's like, you need to do this TikTok thing. Like it's the thing or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not making videos of myself.
Dancing and
And I know, right? And so we did one and it kind of got my feet wet. And then like it's 80 to 90,000 views. So now, not then. So I started to change that. And my TikTok, the videos I usually post on my TikTok, I don't go to Facebook with, because I don't know why on TikTok I feel like I can just post it and walk away.
Mm,
Uh, Social media like Facebook, I've never been one to read the comments. So circling back to relationships thing I learned, I really genuinely did not know that people look at likes, people look at follows. I've never done that. And I know that there's a way I could monetize all my social media, make a lot of money, and try to convince people to buy this, follow this, do this. I've never done that because there's some little Josh out there that
mm,
couldn't afford that. So I've always just posted what I wanted to post. I don't look at likes. I don't look at any of that. And I think that's helped me
mhm.
because you can read comments that you don't like. And I encourage anyone that posts on social media to think of a couple things. Number one, no one can ever take your birthday away from you. Number two, if they have the time and effort to post something negative, they're following you for a reason. Number three, we're not promised tomorrow. So post what you want to post. Um, I have never really publicly posted anything of my personal life. And I wish that I would have took that more serious years ago, because now that I don't even like to say it's fame, because it's odd to say that, but it's been a blessing and a curse because trying to not really convince people of the person I am or who I am,
Mhm.
but we live in a day and time where people think they know you because of this screen, and they don't know you, you know? So when I learned to post and walk away, I feel like that I got more encouraged, and I wanted to tell people more about things that I'm going to go on a limb and say 85 to 90% of people on TikTok or Facebook, they don't know about the industry. You know,
Mhm.
when this releases, people probably don't know how much those rodeo horses are costing. Like they think that's a myth, and I'm telling you, it's not. I have people call me with $500,000 budgets, and I can't find them a horse. You know, so it our industry really is that big right now, and I feel like it's getting bigger. So I always want to post things that I don't think that 90% of those young teenagers or young adults that were once me know is a reality, because a lot of people aren't going to be able to go to an internship or ride with someone that is someone in the industry. So everything I post is not for me. It's not monetized or anything. So if I post it, it's just because I want to share it with someone. And I wish people knew that, understood that about most of creators, social media creators in the equine industry. They're not getting rich off of this,
Mhm.
and your comments do make them back off from posting. And that's why our industry is so far behind in public education like that, is because the last thing I want to do is hear Johnny or Betty leave them a comment. When you go to Johnny or Betty's Facebook page, it's usually user 9,342,
Yeah.
and they've got an Appaloosa with no tail. Not hating on the apps, I love a good appy, but they trail ride, and
Yeah.
that those are the people that leave you a negative comment. It will never be someone doing more than you that leaves you a negative comment.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely good things to keep in mind. And also just the idea of like you're sharing for your own, like out of your own goodness of your heart to share things. And it does feel good. And I think it is a good relationship with social media when you don't look at it. When you're like, I put this out here because I believe in it and I trust it and I want to share this because I think it will help. And when you have that intention, I feel like sometimes, yeah, the negative comments come, but it's like they can't take that away from you when you know you have good intentions with what you do. Even with selling horses, if you have good intentions that are pure, even if someone has a bad experience, you know that you did the best you could. And that's
Yeah. And you have to walk away from it. You know what I'm
important.
saying? And
Mhm.
you have to lay your head down at night knowing you did the best you can do, and never be so prideful that you don't reach out to someone and say, hey, sorry, at that time of my life, I wasn't the greatest person to you. Do it more for you than to them. There's
Mhm.
been many times that I have sent someone a text or a private message like, hey, I'm thinking about you. Not that anything's happened in your life, but I feel like that maybe you have a very bad opinion of something that I did, or, just, hey, thinking about you. Hope you're well,
Yeah,
So it's more for you than it is for them.
it is.
I feel like that mean people hurt people, people that are not happy with themselves hurt
Mhm.
other people. And the younger generation has a really hard time accepting that, because every gratification they get comes from a like or a follow. And that's really not the reality when you talk to people that really do have that kind of following. We don't look at the likes, we don't look at any of it. We just do it because I feel like that it's my job now with this platform to give whatever piece of advice I can, and hopefully one person can use it.
Yeah, exactly. I also just want to say, like, the idea that you just said of the hurt people, and you just doing your part for yourself. Also, people keep in mind if there's someone, let's say, talking shit about you or they are trying to slander your name, do your best to basically prove them wrong. Like, if you have a chance, like you said, just thinking of you. And I have some people in that I am in the industry with that sometimes I feel like that maybe they heard something from someone about me and they give me a cold shoulder. I make
Yeah.
sure that they cannot justify that. Like, I make sure that they are like, well, Shelby talked to me and was really nice. So like maybe what like someone talking stuff about me is actually
Yeah.
full of shit. Like, and so it's like always trying
And
to.
100%. And I see that more like trying to date now, because a lot of, if there are things that the general public says about me, I've gotten really good that I don't give two shits. Like I really don't. And I think that it really chaps their ass when they know I don't care. Like when you're doing more than me, then I'll care. But at this point in my life, you're not doing more than me. So I see it more from a dating aspect because again, gratification comes from social media, and someone thinks that they know you, and they're scared to approach you. I used to, until 2 or 3 years ago, I would approach people that I heard that they said something about me, and I stopped doing that because a lot of people do not have the balls to say, hey, I did say that, but had a different opinion about you. I'm the first one to tell you, probably make a fool out of myself sometimes if I said something or did something that offended you. I am a very black and white person, and a lot of people that come here for help think that I'm kind of an ass in a way, but I'm so passionate about that person getting better in life. To me, it's not about the horses, it's not about the pattern. It's getting better in life, and then everything else will fall into place. Because if you're not happy in life, nothing else matters. So a lot of my helpings and coachings and clinics, I feel like people leave with just a whole new aspect on life. The horse is just there, the horse benefits, but we're there working on a lot of other things, not really the horse in that moment.
Yeah, you're like speaking my language right now, because I'm always like, it starts with you. If, like you just said, if you're not happy, like how can you expect to get these results if like you don't feel good about you, or you're having these issues in like who you are as a person? And yeah, like it is, the horses are kind of a channel for that. And that's why I love horses, because they've taught me so much just about myself. And I think they would everyone else if they actually allowed it. Like I think horses are trying to tell us things and kind of be a mirror for us, but sometimes we're like, we don't even see it. So I would really encourage people listening as well to like reach out to people like me and like Josh that are here to try to maybe help you see that mirror and see the horse as your teacher, and know that like it's such a cool opportunity to learn from them. And also, like you said, the whole point is really for yourself to become better, become more whole, happy. Everything else will follow from there.
Yeah, and the horse, I feel like that it's the horse is the physical thing that we get to see the progress in. So I feel like that's why the horse is kind of like what we use, where if we were to put ourselves in that situation and really make note and see the progress in ourselves, then we would understand that a lot of times we get wrapped up in just the BS of the world when we're not promised tomorrow. No one can take your birthday away from you. Whatever's happening in your life is happening for a reason. If you, I don't know, I'm weird. So when I say this, no one else will probably do this, but I feel like that every season of your life you go through, for me anyways, I can turn on the radio, and what season I'm going through, that song algorithm will somehow pop up. I feel like that when you're in a good spot in your life, whether it be in your relationship or your job or something, you never really feel a down moment, but when you're down a little bit, you always seem or to be attracted to those songs or whatever that come on that want to make you feel sorry for yourself, and want to keep you in that time when you have to just get out of it. And there's a process to get out of dark times. I'm not saying that you just click out of it, but in reality, if we step back and looked at it, there's no choice but to get happy and get over it.
Yeah.
And I love that the horses show us that, and they are our therapy in every way possible.
And they are like, what was I gonna say? Just that like you do have the control as well. Like you saying like a song, you can have the awareness to choose, is this song going to make me more depressed? Do I want to sink into more depression, or do I want to go over top of that and come out the other side? And that's a choice that we get to make without some people even realizing it. They just kind of live in autopilot and let the outside elements control them, where it's like, you have the control. And that's where horses come in, that I learned that it's like, I have the control. Like I show up with my energy, my frequency of how I want them to perform. And shockingly enough, they perform exactly how I feel and how I show up. And I think it's the same with everything in life.
And I think a lot of depression, and I know, and I hope someone listening listening to this that has clinical depression doesn't take this offensively, but I think that a lot of depression comes from our own choices. We put ourselves in situations that make us get down, but being depressed a lot of times is a choice. And like you just said, the horse is that reflection of that. We can turn the radio station just as well as we can make that horse walk behind us or reprimand them a little bit, to where they pay attention. And if we did that with ourselves, and that's why when I help people, that's a lot of what I revert to is, if you can't lead your horse, how are you leading yourself through life?
Mm.
If you're not making this 1,200 pound animal respect you, then how's your life going? And a
Mm.
lot of times what you will see is that their life is just as uncontrollable as their horse. And if they stick with it and they stick and they take a little bit of criticism, their life changes. They move up in their job. Their relationship gets better. And their relationship, and I'm talking about with their husband, their wife, their friends, or their family,
Mhm.
they put some value in their self and they realize, hey, listen, and this is the hardest thing to do is telling friends or loved ones, the season of my life I'm walking into is a season that I'm choosing. So I may be distant. You may think I've changed, but I am doing this for myself. And those people the ones that you want, will encourage you. Hey, I don't understand kind of where you're going. You don't have to explain yourself to them, but whatever you choose to do, I always want people to tell their close friends about it because you're going to change. Hopefully you're going to change if you're wanting to be better in whatever avenue. And if no one knows this person you're turning into, they can't encourage you or understand it. And when they don't understand the choices you're making in life, they kind of hold you back from it, whether it be a diet, or a lifestyle change or whatever. If the closest people you're around don't know it, they can't encourage you to do it and or even respect it. And then you have animosity against them because you feel like, well, you're always wanting to do A, B, C, and D, and you don't know what I'm going through or where I'm trying to get to. Well, tell them what you're trying to go through. And those that should support you, you'll see stick around. And those that don't, they don't stick around. I must have 5 friends. And I'm sure that if a lot of people that know me watch this, they'll be very offended by that. I have about 5 friends, and you would think that I have thousands. A lot of people think they know me, but I have a lot of acquaintances because at this stage of my life, with all that's going on, if 500 or 50 people knew of all the aspects that were going on here, I would have 50 people to be responsible for. And my best friend, her daughter's here every morning. Every morning. I may talk to Michelle every other day. You know what I mean? And she understands like there's working parts to this business. And I think it's very hard for people. 2 things I'm gonna say on this, and I promise I'll be quiet. When someone's trying to get somewhere in life and you see them on social media or you see them accomplishing great things, I guarantee you they don't have very many friends because their time is wrapped around being the best human they can and the most successful person they can. So when you look at me or anyone else that you have respect for or you think that's doing it big, please know that the loneliest place I've ever been in my life is successful.
Mhm.
That's the loneliest place I've ever been. Still there, but I'm understanding and starting to finally realize that it's okay to be there because I realized I got there alone. The loneliest place is on top of the hill because a lot of people won't go to the top of the hill with you, and they don't have to go with you. A lot of people don't want that for themselves, and
Mhm.
it's the easiest thing in life is to be successful because 90% of people aren't. You only have to outdo 10%. 10%. That's all you have to do is outdo 10%, not 90%. If you want to be lazy and useless, yeah, it's kind of hard to do that because there's 90% that want to.
Mhm.
But being good at whatever you want to do in life, it's really easy because there's only 10% doing it. So that's my rambling on that.
Yeah, but it's so true, and I think people kind of lose sight of that, and also, like, I just think if you even had 50 friends, would you even enjoy that? Like, would you rather have 5 really deep connections that you can count on and call any time of day to have like real meaningful, deep interaction that is there again to help you grow? Or would you have 50 people that are in like, again, like the 90%? Like, would you rather have 50 in the 90 or like 2 in the 10, like the
Yeah,
achievements?
and I love that you brought that up. And again, I've never been this candid about any of this, but I do feel like that the chapter I'm in my life that is it's okay and it's time to say this. The more success I have in my life, the lonelier I feel. And I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I'm not saying that to say this, but like the people that have 50 friends, yeah, they're going to the lake on the weekend. They're going out to have margs and Mexican on a Monday night and a Tuesday night. And when I watch that, it kind of saddens me. It does.
Mhm.
I'm not going to lie because I see people that I'm like, man, that would be so much fun to have, that. Or when I see people in relationships that have a big group of friends, I'm like, damn, I wish I had that. But in reality, when I finally stepped back and looked at where those people are, what they have, and where they're headed,
Mhm.
um, they're not really going anywhere. And I'm not trying, I'm sure someone will take this out of context. I'm not trying to be an ass when I say they don't have anything. When I say they don't have anything, I'm not talking about materialistic things by any means. I don't feel like that they're making the most out of their life. We see people. We can log on social media and see people passing away every day, getting abducted, dying of diseases. We have one life to live, and this is just my way to that I want to live it. But like you said, being very candid, the most successful person that you see on social media doesn't have a fruitful and happy life. Yes, they're happy, but you may think that they're best in friends. They're not, because when you get to that point, you feel like people want something from you. And I've never been asked for so many financial favors since my saddle line launched. And it's sad because I'm like, I own all my inventory. Like there's no like big mortgage or something on this business. Like I own all my inventory. Like instead
You're
of
doing
like,
it.
yeah,
Like you're doing good.
instead of texting you be like, hey, do you mind if I borrow a certain amount? Be like, hey, I see you're really striving in life. I have fell on hard times. If your kid needs diapers or your kid needs food, I'll be the first person to send you money for that. But just because you're lazy, and am working my butt off, I don't feel obligated to give you anything. Encouragement, absolutely. You want me to help you find a job?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I feel like that, and again, I've never said this, and it might not be relevant to anyone, but I feel like a lot of kids look at people on social media because that's where the times are, and they just go, "Oh, I just want to be there. I want to be famous. I want to have that car, that house." Those people are really, 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 really lonely. They are, because getting successful has made them feel lonely because people want something from them. Um, I wouldn't change anything in my life, but at this point, I wish that people that listen to this really evaluated their life and found their definition of happiness. Not everyone's going to be a successful. Not everyone wants to be a successful self-employed person. That's totally fine. But if you work at McDonald's or you change tires for a living, or if you pick up trash, be the best at those tasks. And when you are, someone will recognize it.
Mhm.
Someone will recognize it. And when you recognize that, hey, I'm doing the deal, I deserve a promotion. If you don't get it from where you're at, someone else will give it to you. Um, so that's the era of my life I'm in, I guess, is I just want people to be happy,
Mhm.
but I also want people to get the most out of life that they can, because it's not hard. It's not hard to get the most out of life that you can.
Yeah. And it is really listening to yourself. The one thing I just want to quickly say also for people listening is you see someone where they're at successful, and you also see someone maybe like you said they don't have quite as much in some ways, and they're doing stuff on the weekend. Everyone's sacrifice is either good or bad for that life. Like those people doing that might be sacrificing, like the pain now to get something they want, where you sacrificed things to get what you wanted. And I feel the same way. Like I've always had horses, maybe wasn't able to completely afford it, but my mom could. So I was living at home and I sacrificed even my relationships. Like I was single and I'm 29, like just recently in a serious relationship. And like I sacrificed because I had goals and ideas, and those other things didn't really fit in my life at that time. And I was really strict with that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with sacrifices, or like they go both ways, like depending on the life you want. Like like the instant gratification as well. It's like some people are just living with instant gratification where they're not willing to sacrifice, those cute pictures at the cottage or whatever, because
And
they're like, that's
I'm jealous.
yeah. I know, me like low key, if someone has a cottage, like let me know.
Oh, I mean, if someone just wants to love me, let me know. Like want nothing from me besides just thinking I was a dope person, let me know. By all means. And one thing I want to say, if you're trying to get to any point of success, and I know that we've said this before, you have to make that decision on your own. And I feel like you have to mentally really, really, really be ready for those people that are going to vanish.
Mm.
You can't have animosity against them. You can't be mad at them. You just have to understand that the ones that you think might stick around won't. And when you do get that success, the people that once didn't even speak to you, always kind of poked at you, they'll circle back. And that's been interesting because there's a lot of people that I know never really liked me. I know that never really wanted me to be successful. And wouldn't you know, they now want to be my best friend.
Mhm.
And I don't really say much. I am cordial. I speak to them whenever they reach out or whatever. But if I wanted to say, hey, I know that you didn't like me when I was a loser, but now you want to be talking to me or whatever now that I'm here. Because if I did that, it would take me back to that bottom of the hill, and
You're
I
better.
don't, yeah. And I don't really believe the deal that people say, well, they don't deserve this side of me. I feel like I don't really like that saying, because I feel like that I want to change every year of my life. I want to be a different human at 33 than I was at 30, 28, 23. And when you learn that that's kind of the path you take, you let go of all those thoughts. Genuinely, you don't think about people doing bad. I want everyone to win.
Yeah.
I truly do, because when someone else is winning, I'm learning something from how they're winning. We all are, like your podcast, for example. I'm going to say from the point it started to now to where you want it to go has just gotten better and better. And it's from watching people that are doing this that you look up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And doing it in a way that it's like a positive thing. Also, being negative to other people affects you. And I love cheering people on that win, because it helps me. Like I want to be my best. So I need to encourage others to be their best, because if I diss them for their success, I'm telling the universe that I don't want that as well. And I don't think people realize that as much as they should have. Like praising others for doing these things that maybe you're like quote envious of, or you want to achieve as well, cheer them on, because you will get your turn as well. But if you keep dissing that, again, you're just kind of telling the world that I don't actually even like that. And then you're not going to get anywhere.
Karma is so real. And I feel like that we, as a whole, use the word karma when we really should be explaining it like you are. You really reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see people, I do these weird things because I'm just a weird human. But
Sure.
when I'm having success or failure, I like to look around at people that maybe were on that journey with me and then evaluate where they are. And not in a bad way, but I like to think back on how I treated them. Did I give them all the encouragement I could for them to be at their most successful place in their life? A lot of times we'll see people that, let's take friends or dating as an example. They hated that person now, friendships, relationships. And I don't really hate anyone I once loved, because if I put that energy into that person and I dated you or laid beside you at night or carried on a relationship with you. I loved you. Now, it different seasons of our life. Now, obviously, we're not together, but I don't know that I could ever hate someone. I could disagree with choices that were made, whether it be friendships or family, whatever. But when you put that word hate or you put that much negative into someone, you're taking that away from yourself. And the people easily say, well, that's how they are. I agree with that for some instances, but there's a lot of people in this world, like myself and you, obviously, that want to be a different person tomorrow, next month, or next year that we aren't now. So people do change, but you can't put all your energy into reminiscing or being upset with someone or putting them down, because that time and energy, I promise you, it adds up. And you'll look and you'll be my age, you'll be 33. I really feel between the age of 30 and 33, like I feel younger, but there's so many things that I screwed up. There's so much shit that I could have been successful. I could have been way better off at 33 had I made different choices. And I feel like that a lot of those choices were being angry with others when really I was angry with myself. And when I truly believed that in my core that I could do better, my success took off, so
that's such a key point. Like, you're angry with others, but it was actually yourself. I think like that should hit home with a lot of people, and you could replace the word angry with any word that you're feeling. And that's huge. Like, that literally is the key in a lot of ways. And the key to success, like you said, once you started recovering your own love for you and replacing hate with love in others as well, like your own success grew. And I think like people take notes.
yeah. And again, I don't know why, I just feel like today's the day for me to spill my guts. But I'll never forget, I'm going to use this as an example. I was 19, I guess. And when I moved to Oklahoma to help Kendall, she said, you ride really good, but you need a horse. Like, you need to show your talent. So we jumped on Barrel Horse World, and she said, I think this horse is the one you should buy. I think he cost like $15,000. He was in Ohio, and I bought him and had him shipped down, and I went to winning on him. And he did put me out there, and I'll never forget, we were at Victory Farms one day, and I screwed up in the pattern, and I think I hit a barrel or something. And I come out and I whacked this horse in the neck, and she ate my ass out. And I'll never forget, now looking back, I understand why she did, because I wasn't angry with him. It was not his fault. I was so mad at myself. And now you fast forward to, that's almost been 15 years. I see kids at shows, and parents, please, please, please listen when I say this. Your kid does not look cool being into their horse. And parents, you look stupid letting them. There's an instance that there's a girl around here that, I don't know if she thinks it's cool. I don't know if she thinks that people are watching, but she runs out of the alleyway every time and she drags her horse in the ground. And can it stop? Absolutely. Will slide beautiful 11s. It's not a reining contest, number one. And over the last year, I have noticed that horse is getting sore and he doesn't want to stop. Well, she'll drag him in the ground for something he's done in the pattern when you're not resolving anything, So horsemanship is something that I hope through social media, and I've gotten to the point now, maybe in my era of I don't care, cancel me, I say something to those kids. Yeah. I make it a point at the local barrel races, if there's a kid that's struggling but trying to do better, I always keep tack with me. So I always keep like breast collars, bonnets, pads, something with me. This was even before I had the tack deal. And I give those things to kids that I see are doing something. I'll never forget, year before last, we did a barrel race, and this little girl come out. I had a really good horse at the time. His name is Heaven's Dash and Storm, and I set the arena record on him. She came out, she said, oh my God, Mr. Josh, that was a beautiful run. She said, I love your headstall and breast collar. And I said, thank you. Went to the trailer, cooled him off, found her mom, did not even know the little girl's name. And I called her over the trailer and I gave her that headstone breast card. It changed her life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she still uses it to this day. Where there's other kids that I don't feel like are progressing in their horsemanship. And like, this little girl's running a 20-second pattern. You know what I mean? And it wasn't the fact that she did anything special. I just never seen her be mean to her horse, and she always tried. And
Mm-hmm.
every time we go to the barrel race, whenever she comes out, she pats him, tells him good job. So my deal is I want other kids to notice, and parents, that you're always being watched, whether you think it is true or not. You're always being watched. And with this day and time, there's always a webcast. And I do want to add this: there's always a webcast. And I don't care if you're a top fraternity trainer or if you just do this as a hobby and you don't care what people think about you. This industry is thriving. Sponsorships drive that. You know, thanks to the Cowboy Channel and RFD TV and the Cowgirl Channel, we are getting a lot of publicity. If you need to reprimand your horse, please, 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 for the sake of the whole industry,
Mm-hmm.
go to the back barns, go home and do it. Because that webcast, it follows you out the alleyway, and 90% of the time you can see the little warm-up holding pen. Screen recording is a thing these days. I don't know if people don't realize that, but screen recording, screenshotting, people, those are things that you can never take back. So as someone who wants the industry to thrive and be successful for years, you're always being watched. And unfortunately, in 2023, it's on a video that someone can purchase, rewind, and it's just not good for our industry. So
Yeah. Also
again,
not good for our horse, really. Like, not good for our horse, not good for
no,
you. So
it's horrible. And it just doesn't put a good light on the rider. Obviously, that's not really who I'm cared about, though. I care about all of us in a whole. And I've always tried to make decisions that would benefit us in a whole. I feel like that our Congress should probably do that, you know, not be so selfish. We all make mistakes. I get upset a lot of times as well, but I will come home. If my horse does not do well at the show and it's more the horse than me, I come home and I flip my arena lights on and I ride that night. You know, like, you're not going to fix it at the show. If your kid plays baseball and he misses a catch or something, eating his ass out at the baseball field and whipping him is not going to do anything. Go home and practice, you know, and practicing is not running the pattern. Again, we'll have to make a part 2 and 3 to this,
I
because
think so.
I could go down a whole rabbit hole on practicing is not running the pattern. And the issue with the reason I'm doing this is because there's not education that teaches that. You know, little girls watch RFD TV, they watch the NFR, and they think, I want to run like Lisa Lockhart. Totally good. They don't have the education to understand that Lisa walks the pattern more than she trots the pattern. You know, running the pattern is not going to get you anywhere. But besides needing a new horse, that's the only place it's going to get you.
So true. I really think we could like go on for another hour here, just even talking about the horsemanship aspect and like the progress of horses from almost start to finish. But maybe we'll have to plan for that. We've been
We
here for a
will.
while. Yeah.
I would love that, because I feel like that we could go down so many rabbit holes on things that people could honestly use.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that, you know, that's why we have been put at this platform to do that.
Yep. And it feels good. Like, it feels, for me anyways, like just being able to create this and have people listen, like people all over the world have touched base with me with this podcast. So I'm like, damn, like it is making a difference. And for people that are also passionate about sharing stuff, like, don't be afraid. Just have the intentions and know that you can help one person. And if it's one person you can help, like you said about like you younger, like think of you as a 13-year-old, what information would you want? So like, I always think of my little young self when I was starting as a complete beginner, all the horses that I've done wrong. It's like, how can we eliminate the horses suffering through our lack of education?
And it's the same thing when people people don't understand that social media creators, they suffer from your comments. Now, if you have something that you feel like one of us could do better, and you genuinely feel that in your heart, you can direct message someone or private message them and not make yourself look like a fool or an ass by leaving a mean comment. A lot of people a lot of professionals in this industry, they stopped me and said, "Hey, we love your content." And I go, "Hey, you're more successful than I am in this industry, way more successful." Like, yeah, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. They do not want the criticism because it comes with so much. They just want to be horse trainers. They would love to share their knowledge, but there's so many out there that think they know more or want to leave a comment. My favorite deal before I leave this is the person that wants to leave you with the natural halter to ride in, or the natural trimming of the feet. Like, it's horrible that I have shoes on my horse. It's horrible I use a bit on them. Those people should really just create their own group of eating roses and shitting rainbows, because you cannot, there are some horses that you can run the pattern and train in a halter. That's not the life I choose to live. I'm sure it's not the life you choose to live, or 99% of the people here that listen to this, they're not going to train their horse in a halter. So do that elsewhere. But if you do have a comment to leave, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And if you feel like that you can benefit that person that you want to leave a comment on, it's a lot better for everyone involved to just send them a message, or honestly, just don't say anything at all.
Right. Just eliminate the whole thing. And like you said, if you have
Eliminate
something to say, private message, and be just like a good human, like bring positive, like leave every experience better than it was, every relationship. If you can walk away with two people feeling more full, like to me personally, after this conversation, I'm like, I feel really good. Like, this was a nice chat. I feel full. Like, I feel full of love. Like, this is nice. And if you can help people feel that way after an interaction with them, you're winning. You'll be fine. Just trust the process. Just do the good things and you'll be okay. So
give it 10 weeks. Work on something for yourself as you and give it a whirl for 10 weeks, and then reevaluate, and you'll see the progress there. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I've loved every second of this. I hope that there's a little Josh out there that is watching this, and that they get encouraged by it, because this has encouraged me. I have some good ideas now. But yeah, we'll have to circle back, and maybe everyone will give us their opinion on what they want to hear us ramble on about.
exactly. Yeah. If anyone wants or has specific questions for us, or a topic to talk about, let us know. Send us a nice message. Be nice.
Share this with someone that you might think needs it. I think that social media is a blessing, but we need to, if you know someone that needs this encouragement, just like drop them this link and they can watch it. Whether you're best friends with them or not, or whether you don't know them, just send this to them like, "Hey, was thinking about you. I think that, this could be a blessing for you. And I want this to reach people that truly need it. That's who I'm doing this for."
Exactly. And I think I can say it on behalf of all of us that just thank you so much for sharing some of your knowledge today, and just sharing your stories and opening up about things maybe you didn't think you would talk about, but I really appreciate it. And I'm really thankful as well that you're here and that we're able to just create the space and again, share it with others and hopefully help others along their journey as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much for giving me this platform.